news in the camp this week is that everyone's healthy, everyone's sort of feeling good, everyone's improving. We've got over all the sicknesses. Mika had about a day where he came down with something. I had 4 days where I came down with a viral bug, and the girls are completely out the other side and feeling strong again. So real sense of positivity that we're all back training, and we actually managed to get quite a few sessions in together as a group, which is something that we actually hadn't done for like a good part of 6 weeks. News on our side is that unfortunately tracks had to close due to our rising cases. We're not entirely sure why, because when we were on the tracks we were the only ones there, and we were forced out into public spaces where we were forced to congregate to exercise. So I'm not entirely sure why it happened, but it did, and we had to work around it. But it's been a real positive sort of experience for us all to get together again, be it on a track or not. And start to sort of hit out on some of the sort of tougher sessions that are going to make us, prepared to run or to attempt the 5-minute mile. One thing that has happened, if you haven't noticed by now, is that we have pushed the date out. With the tracks closing, we decided that we didn't want to go and do this on the road. We really wanted to do it officially on a track, over the marked out distance. So, it's something that is official, but also that was all sort of part of the experience. But to be honest, we were looking to sort of, push it out a little bit anyway, with us all kind of getting sick at some stage, especially the girls who had almost a 2-week layoff. So it made a lot of sense and it suited us well. So the date now is actually scheduled for the 19th of February. That is what we've sort of put down. So it's an extra kind of 3 weeks or so or 3 to 4 weeks from the aforementioned scheduled date. But it's just given us that little bit more time to get together and get all the training sessions done that we intended to do. And with it being such an extensive challenge, and with us all having a long way to go to sort of get there, it just gave us that little bit more time to get our bodies prepared for the challenge at hand.
So with regards to my training and my sessions, I haven't particularly had like a bad session or a good session. But what I have noticed is as the weeks go by, each session is starting to feel easier as I do more training and obviously improve and get fitter. So from where I started to where I am now, the sessions definitely do feel easier. But there hasn't been a particular good or bad session.
What about this Monday session?
Oh yeah, on Monday, so this Monday, I was not feeling the best. I think I had like some sort of illness or something, and the session I had to do strides, and it was very difficult. But then I took the day off the next day, and Wednesday was my rest day, and then I came back and actually had one of my best sessions. Yeah.
So my hardest, well, I haven't really had a hardest session that was that memorable, but my legs have been tight for a few, which has made them more difficult than previous sessions. And then my best session has probably been, or the one where I felt the most good, was probably a tempo run. I like those the best as well, so yeah.
Okay, so the worst session I had, I would say it was probably actually the last one I had with Mika at the track before the tracks closed. I'd done a mountain bike ride the day before, and for some reason that morning I woke up with a really tight hamstring, and we ended up doing some 400-meter repeats on the track, and to make things worse, not only to have a tight hamstring, but Mika and I, well, more I, misjudged where the 400 meter mark was, and we ended up starting off doing 430 meters and getting horrible times and becoming incredibly demotivated. And then we finally realized on rep 3 that we've actually been running an extra 30 meters, and by that time I'd basically killed myself, and that was a horrible day. I don't think anything good came out of that, but yeah, that was my worst one. My best one, I would say, was actually probably some of the easy runs. Obviously it sounds like your easy run should be easier, but there was one day in particular where I really just felt like it just felt so effortless. Almost like, it was actually quite a windy day, so I didn't expect it to feel, because normally, you struggle a bit more in the wind, but it just felt really, really good. And it felt like, yeah, I was like hardly breathing. Just one of those magic runs.
So I definitely think one of the hardest sessions that I had to do was when we did 4 times 1.2 Ks, and I was really, really struggling with my allergies and my snot, so it was like really, really hard. And then I would probably say one of the easier sessions, or one of the sessions where I felt really good, was probably one of the sprint sessions that we did. I can't remember the exact distances, but it was where we did sprints, and I felt strong.
So we thought we'd give you a little bit of insight into one of the sessions that we did together. This was just happened to be the first session with everyone back. We did it on the common, as you can see. Basically, the goal of this session was to start out with 4 times 150 meters at race pace, just to tune the legs into race pace, and then to go ahead and hit out 3 times 600 meters at race pace, which would be the main set, and finish off with 2 fast 400s. I took the first 450s, and obviously I was supposed to go ahead and hit that 305. Unfortunately, I ended up averaging 310, which didn't help the situation. I think I was just a little bit afraid to go too hard too early on with what was to come. But what that did mean was that I effectively tuned a pace that was slightly too slow into all our legs. And then for the 3 600s, we had Kiara take the first one, Abby take the second, and Mika take the third. And when Kiara started with the first one, she hit it out at about 310 average. So we kind of got to the end of that rep and we realized, oh gee, okay, that was a bit slow. I think let's adjust it slightly and pick it up. And then obviously Abby took the next one, and we ran that 600, and we had a look, and the time was almost exactly the same. We're like, okay, still 310. And then we kind of looked at Mika and said, look, there's only one of these reps left. We have to hit race pace. We can't do this entire session at a pace that's slower than race pace. So then I think Mika went out at like less than 3 minutes a K and just completely blew us all up. He was okay with it, but yeah, I very quickly came a cropper, and the girls struggled a bit with that as well. So yeah, it was tricky. This is us trying to stash our bottles on the common, so we had additional challenges on a hot day of trying to find somewhere to put our bottles while we ran. So we did kind of finish off with the session feeling a little bit demotivated that, we'd missed race pace, and we were feeling so difficult, and we weren't even hitting the pace. But it was kind of a spur of better things to come, because following this session we really had a lot of quality sessions. So sometimes you just get that in training where you just get a bad one, and it causes you to question everything you're doing. And following that, things just seem to go so much better. Last time, I mentioned I had a little bit of a hamstring niggle that really, didn't turn out to be much at all. I was able to do easy runs all the way through that, and in a good couple of days, and I was able to return to some speed work. I did mention that I sort of came down with a viral bug, so that took me out for 4 days. That was more invasive into preventing me from training than the hamstring niggle. And then I got some really solid aerobic training sort of after that, and obviously with it being 7 to 8 weeks, my original plan was to come off a massive cycling base and not do much of a running base leading into all the speed work, because we only had 7 to 8 weeks, and I knew that no matter how fit I got, general fit from aerobic running, I couldn't run a 5-minute mile. I didn't have the speed, so I knew that I absolutely had to start developing my speed work, which was why I kind of just went straight into it. You can't do both. You can't build miles and build speed work when you haven't been running, because you will get injured. So I kind of took a chance there, went on my cycling base, started working on the speed work. But that aerobic base only holds you out for so long. It does disappear if you don't keep sort of tapping it and keep encouraging the improvements on that side. So when we realized that this date was going to be longer than 7 to 8 weeks, I absolutely knew that I had to avoid, I had to get out of the speed work and sort of save the gains that I had and really start getting onto some easier runs that are going to build my endurance. And that's what I've been doing over the last sort of few weeks. It's almost like a reverse periodization. Normally you'd build endurance first and build the speed on top of it, but building the speed first, actually I feel like it worked quite well, because I have made some improvements there. Last week I had a challenging week with a little bit of calf tightness, so I didn't do too much intensity there. Still some easy running, but took quite a few more days off. So it's been challenging, but a lot more positive from my side in this last block. So it's been really pleasing to see Mika's progress really so quickly. It's nice to see the motivation back. It's been pretty much a year and a half since the cross-country season of 2019, since we've seen him have such motivation, since he's had anything to train for really. And since then he's been doing training, but it's just been kind of to tick over, and it's not quite the same. So to see that sort of mental application back, where he's determined to hit his times, that's been great to see. But that his training times have just shot down. He's the one who's looking really comfortable in our sessions when the rest of us are working a lot harder. So it's incredibly good to see, and he's the one that's kind of looking like he's going to be able to definitely put the ball in the back of the net. I think I would sort of at this stage, I'd sort of bet my house on him getting under 5. I'd maybe even push him towards the expectation of getting low 450s, but be that as it may, we're really excited about his progress, and he must stay fit and healthy, and we'll see what he does in a couple of weeks' time. Training's been going really well for the girls. At this stage they're only a step or two behind Mika, but they certainly are right there. I don't think I've ever seen them looking stronger. They're looking, they're physically pushing each other in training, and they're definitely on course to, I'd say they're probably sitting around that sort of 5-minute mark at the moment. It's going to really be close. It's going to be touch and go as to whether they get it or not. So these last few weeks of training, are really going to determine it all ultimately. But more specifically, Kiara's getting over her sort of, not getting over her allergies, but we're managing them through, the cortisone nasal spray and making sure she takes her antihistamines. And herself and Abby are, their bodies seem to be managing their muscle tightness, which they are prone to. So all these things are sort of seem to be sorting themselves out and settling, and really nothing is inhibiting them from training hard. They're pushing each other in training. I'm invoking a little bit of friendly competition within them, sort of teasing them against each other, trying to get them to outpip each other, even throwing in what Mika's times were for the same training session to try and tease them into outdoing him and all that sort of thing. So just getting that competition going, forcing them to push, forcing them to drive themselves and get everything out of them. It's really going to be touch and go. Looking forward to see what they do. So I just think that following that session at the Common, we don't really know, Mika was fairly comfortable that day, but both the girls and myself, we struggled a bit more, and from that point on it really turned. The sessions that we've done since then have really felt better, and this idea of a mile at that pace isn't too obscene. It's starting to look like it might just be possible. So obviously we've got Mika sort of leading the way as the person who's most likely to go ahead and do this for us, and then we've got both the girls who are sitting on that borderline on a knife edge where it could really go either way. And then there's myself, who fair enough is sitting on the wrong side of that line, but I still feel confident that there is sufficient time left, and I do feel that I am getting better. So I don't think any of us are out of a shot of this, but I'm just really enjoying the challenge, and I know that Mika and the girls are really too. We're starting to get amped for it, and we're looking forward to going out there in a few weeks' time and really giving it absolutely everything.